Hi folks, my name's Tom. You're watching High Rant District. A couple of months ago I had a VC meetup here in Portland, Oregon with Dan, whose channel is Vinyl Fury. Dan is from Portland. And a visitor from New Zealand, James Buttery. James kind of pretty much orchestrated this. He had a trip from New Zealand set up to go down essentially the west coast of North America. Started out in Victoria and Vancouver, up in British Columbia, Canada, and then down to Seattle, down to Portland, down to San Francisco, and then eventually back to New Zealand. So none of us had met each other before, but I met Dan and James outside Mississippi Records here in Portland. I'd never been to Mississippi Records, but James and Dan, I caught up as soon as I arrived. I didn't catch the whole gist of the conversation, but they were bitching about the vinyl community, which is pretty funny. So anyway, it's just, nice meeting, like-minded folks. We went into Mississippi Records. We all grabbed some records. I ended up picking out 3 records. I ended up grabbing Brain Freeze, which is DJ Shadow and Cut Chemist doing a DJ set, 2 DJ sets, one for each of them, using old 45s. And I think they use 45s as well on the other one I got, which, although it doesn't say it, this is the product placement release. So, again, this is DJ Shadow and Cut Chemist as well. Brain Freeze is from 1999, I believe, and then 2 years later, product placement came out. These are both bootlegs. The other record I got was on James' recommendation. This is Abdullah Ibrahim and Dollar Brand. The record's called The Journey. It's a jazz album. You can see the players there. And James picked it out, thought I might have an interest in it. He knows I'm not huge into jazz. James is pretty huge into jazz. And he wasn't sure if I'd like it. He thought I might. He wanted to know, what I thought about it. Yeah, I didn't care for it. Jazz is not, I've tried a few times. I have a couple of jazz albums I like, but mostly I like jazz as an ingredient in music, not as a whole meal. So the jazz that I typically enjoy is typically part of hip-hop. Interesting record. I'll give it a few more spins, but it's probably going to go into the to-go pile. So anyway, grabbed a couple of records. So we all grabbed some records. We headed out for a bite to eat, some beer. And, none of us really had any expectations of the day, how long we were going to be, hanging out. But I ended up going on for better part of the day, probably noonish till 6 or 7 p.m. Not sure. Just it was a blur. It just went so fast. They were such nice guys, so easy to talk to, down to earth. Just regular old school vinyl community people. Nobody had nobody had it in their head. Oh, there's a vinyl community meetup. That means content. Let's whip out the phone and start the camera and start recording. Got to make content. Got to get the views. It's just a bunch of people just hanging out and talking about music, about life, about politics. Just really great guys, very grounded. It was funny. Like we were sitting down. I think the second place we went to, and somebody was like, "Well, so what vinyl communities do you guys listen to or watch?" And they mentioned a couple, and I was like, I was kidding around. I was like, "You guys, Melinda Murphy?" And they both were like, "Never heard." And I was surprised they hadn't heard of Vinyl Richie, which is kind of blasphemy, but told them about Vinyl Richie. It was well worth watching. One of the things, and yeah, we bopped around to different places. We ended up going by Dan's home to listen to some music and just chit chat there before heading out to another place. Yeah, it was a long, long hangout. It was a great time. But one of the things that also, like after talking about what vinyl community channels we watch, and I think as James mentioned in earlier one of his videos, besides us bitching about the vinyl community, James asked an interesting question. He asked, "What's your number?" And by that, he meant how much, what's the number, what's the price for which you would sell all your records. And so I don't remember either of their answers. I'm not even quite sure what I said. But the interesting part of that question is it's an exercise that, it indicates whether you've actually thought about it. So it's not really the question itself. It's not really an issue about like what the actual number is. It's a question of have you thought about it. And it was funny because, I have been thinking a lot about that lately. And it's something that goes through my head every now and then. As I get older, I'm closer to death than I am closer to birth. So at some point, when you accumulate things through a life, do you try to pare them down to just what's essential to you? To have like a basic kindness for the people you leave behind, to not have to wade through garbage, wade through a lot of stuff to just kind of, move on with their lives, afterwards. I think it's kind of a dick move if you just leave a pile of crap for the next, for your loved ones to deal with after you pass. So, that's something that goes through my mind a lot. And, it's stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's stuff I love, but not, it's stuff. And so, yeah, it goes through my mind, what's my number? I don't know. But, I could see, at some point, just either, I'm constantly paring down my record collection. And I could see going as far as probably just getting rid of all my, 12-inch sized records, whether they're 12-inch singles and LPs or LPs, what have you, or EPs. I think I would have a hard time not being into records at all. I could see getting rid of all the 12 and 10-inch records and then just going on a kick where I only deal with 45s, with 7-inch records. I think that would be a cool endeavor. It's, for me anyway, because I've never gone deep into 45s. I've got less than 100. I've probably got 70 or so, maybe even less than that. So I think that, would be an interesting thing to dive into. I think I'm kind of like, as far as record collecting goes, I'm kind of like, for the way I collect, I think I'm kind of like almost an endpoint where, the way I collect records is, I'm at this point, I'm pretty much only going for originals, and I've got a lot of what I already want. And when it comes to brand new releases, and I do listen to a lot of new music, I generally buy those on CD, under the mindset that new records are not press great. They're expensive. CDs are a lot less expensive. And also, these are, in this time, records are records. Albums are recorded digitally. So, no, a record is not a CD plus pressed on, wax. It's different, the mechanics of it do make it sound different, and more appealing. But for records, could I, full-size records, could I go digital? Yeah, I could see it. Like I said, as I get older, there's a stronger and stronger minimalist mentality that creeps into my thinking about a lot of things. And 12-inch records take up a lot of space. CDs take up space too, but less so. And if I get ambitious, I could rip them all, put them in boxes, and they could be out of sight, stored as a backup where I just play files because, it's fairly well the same thing if you're playing a file or a CD. But then, still got, a handful of cassettes, and, I think 45s would be an interesting way to go. So anyway, it's just a great question. If you think of what your number is, I think the answer to the question, if your answer to the question is a number, then you would consider getting rid of your records. And it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.